What up? What up? This is episode 3 of the Black Guys Like Baseball 2 podcast, a safe space for black baseball fans. I am your co host out of Baltimore, Terrence, and my co host out of Cincinnati.
Brian Evans, what up? What up?
So, Brian, what's going on out there in the Natty?
Oh man, it's finally beautiful weather. We finally got out the 30s. You know what I'm saying? Like today, I think we might be touching 60 degrees. So I don't know if it's global warming or what, but I'm gonna take
I
it.
feel you. Speak of warmer weather, we were talking a little bit before the podcast. I was down in Charlotte last weekend for the CIAA tournament. Shout out to everybody down in Charlotte that came out for the tournament and the day parties and night parties and all that good stuff. So we had a good time down in Charlotte last weekend. Have you ever been to CIAA?
I have not.
You got to check it out. It's
Uh,
actually coming to Baltimore next year, so
Okay.
I'll be hosting a few people probably for that weekend. But it's a
All
super
right.
dope event. Like the unfortunate thing is nobody goes to the actual basketball tournament.
Right.
But you know how we do. But
Yeah.
everybody hits up the day parties and like the night parties and after parties and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like a super good time. Got to see like a couple of celebrities and B-list rappers and all that good stuff. And fire marshal shut down two of the parties we went to.
Oh man.
Uh, yeah, it was kind of nuts because a lot of people were saying like a lot of the parties were at venues that are typically like white venues, and
Right.
we just kind of took over for the weekend. So I guess the powers that be weren't having that. So a couple of parties actually got shut down while we were
Oh
out there.
man.
So it was nuts. It was the and shout out to everybody at the it was called the Lottie Dottie party.
Hmm.
So it's like this huge day party that is at this venue, and I forget the name of it, but it was like four different clubs, kind of like in one,
Okay.
and it was like packed like wall to wall to wall, and they were supposed to have like performances there, like Dougie Fresh was supposed to be there,
Hmm.
Mystical was supposed to be there,
Nice.
somebody I think Juvenile was supposed to be there, um, like super random Grand Poobah was supposed to perform, which was like everybody was like, okay, like like where'd y'all find Grand Poobah? But whatever, whatever. But yeah, that party was super dope. It just got shut down kind of early because of fire marshals and overcapacity and all that type of good stuff. But good time nonetheless. So I do recommend next year when it's in Baltimore, people come up.
Yeah, might check
And
that out.
you yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, in Baltimore, like Baltimore's a basketball city, so
Okay.
people might actually go to the tournament up here.
Right.
But the nightlife isn't as great as it is down in Charlotte, so it's gonna be like an interesting situation. And you were telling me that you were doing some DJing last week or earlier this week, right?
Yeah, I had a DJ gig. Shout out to Wentwoods High School. You know what I'm saying? Out here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Some of the older classmates will just say, class of like 88, 89, you know what I mean? Hit me up for like their basketball tournament to kind of raise money for their class reunion in August. So that was cool. I had a good time. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but it definitely smelled like being gay at the end of the game.
So the whole gym was just like Bengate out.
Bengate out. I was playing, you know what I'm saying, old school hip hop, which I have no problem with. It was a good crowd, man, for real. Like I was surprised how many people showed up. It was a good time. It was a good time, and they was out there playing hard. Like this wasn't no like rec league, you know what I'm saying, basketball game. Like there was people's prides online. So you know what I'm saying. Yeah, they was out there playing hard for real. So it was fun. I hope they do it again. I would love to DJ that again.
Okay. Well, we had a lot to cover that happened in baseball over the last week, and we missed a week. So there's one or two things we got to catch up on. We have Black History being made this week in Major League Baseball. I should say last week in Major League Baseball. Astros, Vegas have taken a interesting interest, let's say, in the Astros this year out in Vegas. Chris Sale, his injury woes. Christian Yelich gets paid with a capital PAID.
Let me hold something.
Mo. Right. Let me hold. They're more than something. Let me hold a little bit. We need a new term, a little something. MLB gets mic'd up for spring training, and always our Negro League legend. So let's get into the episode. As always, with the legend Bernie Mac.
I said, take. I said, take. Me out to the ball game. Take. I said, take. Me out with the crowd. Now buy me some peanuts. Buy me some peanuts. Buy me.
All right, and that was again the legend Bernie Mac. As we always kick off these episodes with the black version of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And speaking of the black version, congratulations on order for Major League umpire Kerwin Danley. He becomes the first crew chief of an Empire squad or umpire crew chief. That goes to show how little I know about umpires because I've never even heard of that title for the 2020 season. This makes Danley the first black umpire crew chief in MLB history. Danley began calling MLB games in 1992 and became a full-time umpire in 1998. So again, congratulations on that achievement, Mr. Danley. Brian, any thoughts on this honor bestowed upon Kerwin Danley?
I mean, I definitely think it's well. First of all, I think it's way overdue.
Right.
I think it's way overdue, and we're moving in the right direction as far as Major League Baseball goes. While I was doing a little bit of research on that story, I also found out, at least according to Yahoo Sports, that they were also starting their first Latino crew chief as well, Alfonso Marquez, who
Okay.
is 47. He's been an umpire for 20 seasons, so this could be invasion of the brown people.
Slowly but surely.
Here we come. But no, congratulations to both of those gentlemen. Like I said, I think we're moving in the right direction. So congratulations to those two, and don't mess this up.
Don't mess it up. Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy. I mean, again, crazy shout out to him. I didn't even know, crew chief was a thing for empires in
Right,
MLB. I didn't know they had like. I mean, it makes sense now that I heard it, but my man has been on the grind for a minute. Like I said, began working with the league full time in '98.
right.
He's worked 2 World Series, 2008 and 2018. 2 All-Star games from what I've read also. So, again, congrats to him. And, again, this is just one of those examples of representation in baseball being so lacking. Like, for the first one, like Major League Baseball has been around for a little while. Like, they
Yeah.
had the first, black crew chief in 2020 is a little nuts. And a little research that I did, this is, again, one of those crazy non-diversity stats, but there's actually only been 10 full-time black umpires in the history of Major League Baseball.
Jeez, no, I didn't know that either. That's good research. I did not know that.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Google. Um, but but think about that's crazy. 10 black umpires in the history of the majors. There's what 4 umpires per game.
Yeah, sounds about right.
First base, third base, home plate umpire, and I think one more. Like my baseball knowledge is really lacking on umpires.
Well,
I need
it's
to
the
really
off
get
season.
on that.
It's the off season. You know
Right.
what I'm
So
saying?
yeah, all right.
We're gonna
I
sharpen
got to
up.
get back in the gym. But to think there's like 4 or 5 umpires working per game, and only 10 in the history of the game have been black. That's like that ratio is insane.
Yeah, that's way off. That's way off. Considering, I mean, like you said, considering baseball's been around that long, considering the players, I mean, sadly, there's probably not too many more managers as far as
Right.
umpires go. I mean, the numbers can't be that much staggering in comparison. So yeah, I mean, we still got a long way to go, no doubt, but we'll celebrate the small victories when we can.
Yeah, again, shout out and congratulations to Kerwin Danley. I'm actually going to start paying attention to umpires a little more now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he's a trailblazer and we'll get that number up from 10 to a good percentage of the league going forward. But again, congrats to him. I'll actually be out on the lookout for him now that I know that black umpiring is a thing, or not really a thing. But again, shout out to him. Congrats. And going along the lines of rules of the game, um, Vegas has actually opened lines for betting on Astros being hit by pitches this season. There are, and I had some odds written down, but they've actually changed since I originally read the story, so I won't go into the actual odds. But there are casinos that will taking bets on things such as which Astro will be hit by the most pitches, the total number of Astros that will charge the mound after being hit by a pitch, total Astros to be hit by pitches for the season. There's an over under for that, and also if, and this is kind of a little morbid, if any Astros will be injured by hit pitches. So what's your take on Vegas taking action on Astros getting bean this season?
I am not mad at that. I mean, considering that we were joking about it, Vegas just took it serious and was like, "Hey, no, we're going to actually open up lines for this."
Right.
So I'm not mad at them. That is awesome. I mean, I'm for it. Like I said, I mean, we need baseball needs that shot in the arm. So betting on who's going to get hit the most, who's going to charge the mound, like probably like which pitcher is going to hit the most Astros. Like I'm sure that's out there too. Like that.
Yeah.
Why not liven it up? I mean, I guess they looked at the numbers and seeing what like fantasy football does for football for the NFL. So it's like, why not create some lines for gambling as far as baseball goes and liven that up a little bit? Because if I got money on the line, I'm watching every Astros game to see who gets beamed so I can collect my money.
Right. But it's just so crazy that Vegas is watching, a situation like that. That, like you said, we joked about it last episode, but Vegas is like really doing the science behind it. And, Vegas is like, people don't want to like acknowledge it, but Vegas is rarely wrong about stuff.
Right, right. And best believe that they have some kind of influence on what really happens as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the points I wanted to make. If I'm a major league and I'm not saying that any major league pitcher would do so, I'm just putting it out there.
Right.
If I'm a major league pitcher and I have a couple dollars on, Altuve getting hit by 20 pitches this season, I might, throw one a little inside
Yeah.
here and
I
there,
mean, if you're
boost
sitting
my
on
odds a little bit.
19 and you got the 20th pitch, it's gonna be high and tight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, and athletes gamble a lot more than people want to, acknowledge. And,
Mhm.
and the interesting thing about this, players can actually control how many, Astros get hit by pitches. Like they can legit say, "I'm going to hit this dude with a pitch." So it's going to be interesting to see if there's ever at any point, speculation even that a
Right.
pitcher is hitting Astros for, Vegas reasons, so to speak.
Yeah, we need to man, we might have some homework this season. Like we may have to watch and see what the lines are
Right.
and see what happens cuz like you said, if the pitcher knows and there's some like I said, you'll be a fool to think that there's no influence from Vegas on what happens in real life. Like that's foolish. So, yeah, that will be interesting. That and I'm like you said, I'm sure MLB will be keeping a close eye on that, but at the end of the day, I mean, what's going to happen is going to happen. They can only react to it, really. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, my man Kerwin Daly might have his hands full if he got any
Right.
Astro games this year. So that's gonna be interesting to see.
Hey, let me rewind this a little bit. They putting the brothers on the line. Like, they put Dusty Baker out there. They promoted the first black crew chief. They put him on the line. Like, it's on y'all, man. Y'all can handle this mess.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on that. I do bet on baseball a little bit, so I'll definitely be watching like lines and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm definitely interested to see how this one turns out. Whether Vegas is going to cash in on this, or if this is just kind of one of those novelty things that they just throw out there to make headlines for the casinos and stuff like that.
Right.
But I'm sure Major League Baseball will be watching this situation, very, very closely.
Absolutely.
And side note, and this is like totally unrelated, maybe. Like
Hmm.
last season, like last season, like I said, I do bet on baseball games sometimes, and I made like a good bit of money just like betting against the Orioles every day. Um, so I was watching CNBC maybe 2, 3 years ago,
Hmm.
and there was this guy. He was like a hardcore hockey fan, and I forget which team he followed, but whatever team he followed was like terrible. They like stunk. So he bet like I think he said he bet like $100, $150 against them every night,
Yeah.
and actually won enough money to buy season tickets for that team the following year. So
That's
like when I
crazy.
saw that, I was like, hold up, the Orioles are terrible. Like,
Right.
and I live right here in Baltimore, so I get to keep an eye on the team. So I put like 30 or $40 against them a night for like 2 months, and
Hmm.
like I did pretty good.
Nice.
So just want to put that. I'm not influencing anybody to gamble. So
Right.
if you have a problem, call the 1-800 gambler or whatever it's called. But yeah, just don't. I throw that story in there.
Hey, I
So
might check it out. See how my Reds start out the season.
yeah, if they're gonna break your heart, at least they can ease the pain a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of pain, that brings us to Boston Red Sox ace Chris Sale. Boston Red Sox and their ace Chris Sale actually got a third opinion on his elbow injury. And it's serious when you get a third opinion on an injury. That's definitely not a good sign.
Right.
Um, at the moment, it's being classified as a flexor strain, an injury that he's actually had in the past. And Sale is actually scheduled to begin throwing this week, and his injury will be reassessed based on the throwing sessions that he has this week. And there also is speculation that Sale actually needs Tommy John surgery and could possibly miss the 2020 season, and that's coming after the worst season of his career in 2019. So, how bad does this actually look for the Red Sox this season?
Yeah, I think this is bad. I think this is bad because this is the second season. This is the second season in a row that he's had some kind of trouble with his throwing elbow. And like you said, when you seek out like a third opinion, it's kind of like while it doesn't hurt to get a third opinion, it's kind of like you're looking for other solutions. Like, well, maybe they might not know what they're talking about. Let me ask somebody else, and then they tell you the same thing. Well, maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Let me get a third opinion. And after the third opinion, at least to me, you're kind of looking for, you're kind of hoping at this point, like that you'll get different news. So you can just say, oh, we're gonna rehab it. We're gonna, just let him take some time off, rehab it, come back, and he's good as new. But at this point, uh, when you look at the age and the wear and tear of just a pitcher. And again, this is your second year in a row coming in. Like, this doesn't sound like it's just a coincidence. It sounds like it's a routine at this point.
Hmm.
And yeah, maybe you do need Tommy John surgery and just chalk it up for this year and hope to be better than next year.
Yeah, man, because the Red Sox in general are in a tough spot this year. They weren't projected to be that great with Sale this year,
Right. Right.
just because of the losses that they've had over the last few years, and some of their younger players haven't exactly developed as quickly as they had hoped. But yeah, nothing about this situation looks good at all.
No.
Um, And a lot of people are saying that it has a lot to do with his throwing motion, the way that he kind of like snaps or holds his elbow on his delivery, and that's a part of the reason, from what I've read, that the White Sox were so willing to let him go,
Right.
because they were looking at his mechanics. Well, the rest of his mechanics were strong, like his elbow motion, made him susceptible to injury, and they were like, versus us giving you 100 mil and that elbow might not hold it up too long, we're going to sit this one out.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm gonna head out on this one. So yeah, the Tommy John surgery, if he does have it, may be just a temporary fix.
Mhm.
If he isn't able to change his delivery or switch it up a little bit, to kind of save himself some wear and tear, this might just be putting a band-aid on it. And the other thing is, this year starts the contract extension that he got from the Red Sox.
Uh,
So, yeah. So, starting this year and through 2022, he's going to be making $30 million a year. And then in 2023, 2024, he's going to be making 27.5 million.
oof. Man,
Yeah.
that's funny because
Yeah.
we were just talking about baseball contracts on the last podcast. Oh man.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Red Sox are in a tough spot with Chris Sale. And, with that contract, they're not going to be able to move him.
Right.
Unless he takes some kind of buyout and moves on. He seems like a smart man, so I don't see him retiring in the middle of this contract. So he'll probably ride this joint out to get
Absolutely.
all that money. And to insult the injury, he's coming off his worst season. Like, he had a record last year of 6-11 and had a 4.4 ERA. So even without the injury, he wasn't looking too good in a Red Sox uniform, except for the obviously the World Series year.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're the Red Sox, what are you doing in this situation?
The worst thing that can happen is him go out there and he just throw his arm out or whatever and damage it worse than whatever it could be right now. So
Right.
take your losses. Like you said, they kind of weren't expecting to do great things, this year anyways, losing Mookie Betts and everything like that. So it was just like, hey, we're going to just chalk this season up. I mean, they can still have a decent season. I'm not saying like it's they'll be total trash, but at the end of the day, you weren't expected to do great things this year anyway. So go ahead, get the surgery, start rehabbing, come back next year, better. Maybe pick up some free agents or whatever the case may be. Have a good draft class, somebody out of the farm system, and hope 2021 is better.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. Like, it sounds like 2020 is gonna be a wash anyway. So, I mean, if you're gonna chalk it up and have a bad season, you might as well go all the way with it.
Yeah,
I mean, save this man 1 year on his career, let him fully rehab, let him get the surgery and everything like that. Um, I mean, you're going to eat the 30 million you're going to pay him anyway.
yeah,
I mean, so you don't want to make his injury worse, trying to force him out there on a bad elbow at that. And like you said, Red Sox from a lineup standpoint aren't looking as strong this year. I mean, they still got JD and Rafael Devers out there, but the rest of that lineup is a little suspect. So again, they're not looking that great this year. I take the L, give him the surgery, let him rehab, come back hopefully stronger next year. The only saving grace they may have is that the AL East might not be that good this year outside of the Rays, because my Yankees are experiencing, coming into the season, with a ton of injuries.
y'all like a mash unit right now.
Right. Like, Aaron Judge is out with a broken rib, so that's going to take some time to heal, and then it's going to take him time to get comfortable again. Severino's out. James Paxton is out. Stanton. Stanton is kind of like Joel Embiid at this point. You just expect him to miss
Yeah.
like a third of the season and just hope he's really good when he's playing. But we've always got to worry about injuries with him. And then throughout a 162 game season, people are going to get hurt naturally. So, the Orioles are the Orioles. So, I mean, the only saving grace, like I said, the Red Sox have is a weak division this year. So they might be able to crawl out of it and look somewhat decent if
Yeah.
the rest of the division collapses. But like you said, this year might be a total loss.
And if nothing else, as long as they, show their hand per se to the fans now, just letting them know, like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and chalk it up. Not chalk it up. Obviously, you don't want to use that words with the fans, but just let them know, like, hey, we're planning for the future. We're gonna go ahead, give Chris Sales his Tommy John surgery. He's gonna be better. We're gonna be better. Ride with us this year. We're not hanging it up. We're gonna compete. But just as a fan, you can't be too mad at that going into the season, knowing like what to expect.
Right.
So
That's one of those trust the process type of situations.
right. Maybe you have dollar hot dog night or something like that more than you normally would to bring the fans in. Couple more bobbleheads. We're going to add 5 more bobbleheads this season,
Right.
whatever, just to make up. But like I said, from a standpoint of the fans, like you just knowing going in what the season is going to be and what to kind of expect, you can't really be too mad. You won't like it, but at least you're not like, man, y'all played us for some fools. Like, y'all knew y'all was going to do this the whole time. If you just show your hand, like, look, we feel this is the best way to move forward. This is what we're doing. Still ride with us. You got to respect that.
Right. And also, I mean, you just won the World Series in 2018, so you still should be feeling.
Yeah.
You still should be feeling, warm and fuzzy as a Red Sox fan because you're not
Exactly.
too removed from your last World Series. So you guys would be all right long term. But like I said, I agree with you. Sit Chris Sale, let him have his surgery, let him heal completely. I mean, your team is trash anyway, so suck it up this one year. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Time will tell.
Right. And speaking of being all right, your man Christian Yelich. Woo. Milwaukee Brewers and MVP right fielder Christian Yelich agreed to a contract extension worth $215 million that will keep him in
Mhm.
Milwaukee through 2029. And I imagine $215 million goes a long way in Milwaukee.
Absolutely. All the beer and brats you can eat.
Right. I mean, they're not even charging him at restaurants at this point. So, like, you
Yeah.
good. He's on that Aaron Rodgers, Giannis list. I mean, they're
Yeah,
not
that that
picking up
that
the
Kawhi
bill.
Leonard when he was in Toronto, like, yo, you can come here, eat here, drink as much as you want, eat as much as you want, like you good here.
Right. I don't see him picking up too many tabs in Milwaukee these days. But since joining the Brewers, Yelich has won an NL MVP. He actually should have won two, in my opinion, but I digress. 2 batting titles, 2 Silver Sluggers, and he's led the Brewers to 2 trips to the playoffs. So, thoughts on this deal? Thoughts on the contract where Milwaukee goes forward with Christian Yelich? What you got?
Oh man, yeah. I just hope the whole city of Milwaukee doesn't implode, paying him this much money. While I do feel that he absolutely deserved it. I mean, he's the best thing walking in as far as baseball goes. Is up in Milwaukee, like him and Giannis, pretty much own the city.
Right.
Um, but yeah, does he deserve it? Absolutely. I don't know how this works out for Milwaukee long term. Um, but live for the right now. At least they got that window for the next couple of years to compete, and then maybe you might start seeing backlash from this contract. But hey, ride it out now. You know, unfortunately, as a Reds fan, we still paying Joey Votto. So I'm telling Milwaukee from experience, man. Like paying one player that much money, while they do deserve it from years past, it could come back and hurt you. So yeah, good luck to Milwaukee. Hopefully it works out for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a decent deal. I mean, Milwaukee, the Brewers haven't had a face of the franchise type player since, man, I don't know. I mean, they thought Ryan Braun was going to be that guy for a long time.
Right.
Then he got caught up with the PEDs, and he's
Mad
has
PEDs.
right. And outside of that, he's had some injuries. So, Christian Yelich seems like the kind of guy that can be that franchise player. And, they'll be happy with him. They love him. He loves them. And the other thing is, I think that's underrated with professional athletes. Like, I would love to be the man in a small market like Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I would imagine that would be pretty dope. When although it's a different sport, when you hear about like the Spurs in basketball, like those athletes like Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, like those guys are beloved in that city. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? They're not Houston, they're not even Dallas. Like San Antonio is a nice city, definitely not one to sleep on. But like bringing it back to baseball, Milwaukee, uh, you know, they have their few superstars, and that's no slight. They have their very few superstars up there in their sports, and like I'm sure they live like kings and gods up there. So
Yeah, I would
yeah, I
take
can imagine that being dope.
Yeah, I would take the small market superstardom over, a LA or New York or Atlanta, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you are the king. Like, you don't pick up a check at a restaurant. Like, you're likely to have your statue in front of the, stadium one day.
Hmm.
All that type of stuff. So I would love to have all that. But in regards to the actual dollar amount of $215 million, I think the Brewers actually got off pretty light money wise. I mean, you compare, that 215 for Yelich to, 13 years, 330 million to, capping overrated Bryce Harper in Philly,
Right.
or Mike Trout, 12 years, 430 million. I mean, $215 million for a guy that's pretty much back to back MVP races and got
Yep.
you to the playoff twice, batting titles. I mean, they got a little bit of a discount, in my
I,
opinion.
Agreed. And maybe the being a small market, like maybe being a small market because you got to believe some of this is ego at the same time. And I'm not saying his ego. I'm just saying like as a player in general in any sport, you want a lot of money from the city that you're playing. So yeah, if
Right.
he was in a bigger city like Philly, New York, or LA, then yeah, I'm sure that price number would be high. But I'm sure he understands. uh, Somewhat of the budget as far as Milwaukee goes, and if he felt 250 was a good amount, I'm sure your ego was stroked at that point. You're like, yeah, cool. Like I know I can go somewhere else and make more money, but like you said, I do like playing here. The fan base is great. They do appreciate me. 250 or 215 is great for me. So yeah, while it is a discount in our opinion, as far as him possibly leaving and getting money elsewhere. It's a good situation to be in. It's a good situation.
Yeah, and the Brewers had the luxury of never having him hit free agency to, for him to hit those other numbers, which
Right,
is
correct.
huge because, like I said, and honestly, and I know this may not be popular opinion, like I said, I think Bryce Harper is super overrated as a player, and
Yeah,
for him to hit the market and be able to get 330 million, I know Yelich would have got more than that. He might not have gotten Trout money, but he could have used, Bryce as that linchpin to say, look at my numbers compared to this guy, and I'm actually leading you to playoffs.
right.
So for the Brewers, you're not letting that guy go on a date with another girlfriend, so to
Right,
speak,
exactly.
to
Yep.
see how good life is. So it makes sense for them. But with that said, what kind of team do you think the Brewers could build around Yelich? Committing that much money to him, knowing that they're like kind of a small market team.
Overall, what do you think is their weakness? Like, what do you think they need to add?
The Brewers probably pitching, I would think,
I was thinking that, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, um,
because I don't think they have like a legit like ace
okay,
that I can think of anyway.
right, right. So yeah, I was thinking that, but like I said, I wanted to get your opinion because I wasn't 100% sure. We all know pitchers are not cheap. Um,
Right.
I don't know if they can afford an ace down the line or if they can just get somebody who, will win you 15, 20 games, out of the season. But Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, right now, I don't think it was a mistake by either party. Um, he definitely deserved it, and Milwaukee did get they got a great player for a pretty decent amount. Hopefully, they can sustain it and maybe build around him to be a contender for years to come. At least the length of his contract, but that rarely happens. At some
Right.
point, there's some kind of decline, or somebody needs more money, or you could get like another great prospect, and now you have to pay them too. So there's always something that happens in sports, unfortunately. But that's just the that's just the nature of the beast.
All right. So I mean, yeah, I mean, shouts out to him for getting the deal. I mean, 215 is nothing to sneeze out, even though I think he could have got more on open
Yeah,
market. But, clearly he wants to be in Milwaukee. Like I said, Milwaukee wants him there, which is always a great thing. And the Brewers fans, I give it to them, they've been loyal over the years without much to be loyal to.
right.
Um, like they went on a long playoff drought before they got Yelich. So it's a big deal that he came there and they automatically went to two playoffs. And I think they went to one NLCS, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like a win for both sides. So shout out to Christian Yelich and Milwaukee Brewers for getting the job done on that deal. This is also a huge win for guys like, Cody Bellinger, Aaron Judge, Javi Baez, to see that Yelich can get so much money from a small market team and their stars on big market teams, and they're actually coming up on contracts as well. So I think baseball money is borderline ridiculous right now. And we talked about it before. What are your thoughts on baseball contracts nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are kind of getting ridiculous. Now, of course, if I'm a player, I have nothing to say, nothing bad to say about it. But
Right.
just as a regular tax-paying citizen with a slightly above minimum wage job, nah, man. But but nah, for real. Yeah, I just don't know if there's going to be some kind of cap. Like, what contract is it going to take for like MLB to be like, okay, this is kind of getting out of hand. People getting 20-year contracts now.
Right.
For like 500,000 or whatever, or 500,000, 500 million. We need to slow things down. Yeah, I just don't know at what point they kind of pull things back.
Right. I mean, because like ultimately, uh, the fans wound up paying the contracts,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's a huge food chain, but it eventually trickles down to the paying customer that watches games or buys jerseys or stuff like that, or has to pay for ESPN now or the
right,
MLB ticket and all that type of stuff. And the unfortunate thing is that you get situations like the Chris Sale situation we just talked about. He's entering, a 5-year, $145 million extension, and he might not be the same player again.
right.
Just because of one injury, and the team has that much money invested in him, and they don't know what they're going to get, if anything, out of him at this point. So, like you said, I'm always grateful for the players to get their money because I mean they take a lot. It takes a lot of work to get to the MLB and to actually become a star in MLB. And people don't understand the reason that one of the reasons that the MLB money is so big is because it takes baseball players like a long time to get paid.
Hmm.
Yeah, because your average player plays in high school, might get drafted out of high school, maybe not. Then they play college. Then they got to play some minor leagues. Then they got to play 3 4 years in the majors before they start making like money.
Right. You're
So
like 25, 26. Coming
right.
into the league, like, I finally made it.
Right. So, man, like I get it from that standpoint. It takes a while for them to get paid, and they're risking injuries and all that type of stuff throughout that whole process. But yeah, I mean, you look at these contracts. Like I said, Trout $430 million, like Bryce Harper 330. Yelich 215. I can't remember exactly what Stanton got, but Stanton got something in the neighborhood of $300 million. And like I
Mm,
said before, he's playing like a third of the season at this point for the
right.
Yankees. Like, so
Yeah.
something's got to be done. There should be some happy medium between the teams and the players and contracts and the unions and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I just don't see how this is sustainable. These monster contracts. So hopefully they figure something out. If not, baseball will be the first sport to have a $1 billion athlete because we're pretty much halfway there already with
Pretty
Trout's
much.
contract. You know, so yeah. All this to say, like I have my 3-year-old son running bases already.
Absolutely,
Um,
man. Absolutely.
whenever we go to the park, he runs around the bases, and I'm helping him run around the bases because dad needs to be taken care of at some point.
Right.
And that $1 billion might be in his age group. That $1 billion contract, the first one. So
It definitely. I do believe it'll be around that his era. You know what I'm saying, when he's coming out of college or high school, whatever the case may be, and they can be paying people around that much money. And just because I brought his name up earlier, I looked up Joey Votto's contract because like it's still a hurtful subject for me. So Joey Votto signed a 10-year, $225 million contract. God, where is
really,
that? Yeah. Um, God,
I
what
didn't
year was
know he
that?
was making that much money.
Dude, yeah, he's the reason why we had to have that fire sale years ago. Like that's why we had to
Wow.
get rid of all our pitching. Like we couldn't afford anybody. Like we had to rebuild. And like I'm not dumping on Joey Votto because when healthy, he's a great player, like a very dangerous hitter, whatnot. But it was just one of those things where like, did he earn the money? Yes, he did earn the money. But in the end, he started having injuries that kept him out for like half the season. I can't
Right.
tell you when the last time he played a full season, honestly, because he's had mental health issues, which we now know obviously is nothing to make fun of.
Right.
So even back then when it originally came out, yeah, we were kind of poking at him because it's like, dude, you make this much money, how can you be depressed or
Depressed.
whatever the
Right.
case may be? Yeah, yeah, but we're not making fun of it now, but it's just one of those things where, like I said, just you don't know what you're investing in, like you don't know what the future holds when you pay somebody this much money, and you expect them to perform. So whether it's mental health or injuries, again, you hope for Christian Yelich that he performs at that high level that he's performing at now for that the length of that contract, but you just never know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's difficult for a player in any sport, not just baseball, but any sport, to consistently perform at a high level for 10, 12 years. It's just almost impossible. I mean, the prime of any athlete's career is typically about 4 to 5 years, maybe,
Hmm.
if that. But to expect someone to be on the top of the game for 10 plus years is a lot. And to commit that much money, you know, to a player to be that productive is a huge roll of the dice. There aren't too many baseball players that you could say were at the top of the food chain for 10 years consistently.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like I said, shout out to Christian Yelich and the Brewers for getting the deal done. We'll ultimately see how it works out. I mean, he could be, Barry Bonds, or he could be Albert Pujols. We don't know.
yeah. And Christian, if you need somebody to wash your car or walk your dogs, man, hit me up. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you a good price on that.
Right. Well, I'll give you a price. I don't know how good it'll be, but I'll give you a price on that. All right. And also, like I said before at the top of the show, we got some spring training action going on. And one of the new features that, the MLB brought to this year's spring training, and they've done it in the past, but not to this extent, is the MLB Mic'd Up. I guess you would call it a feature or experience that they have
Yeah.
where Major League Baseball players are actually being mic'd up throughout the course of the games and actually having conversations with, commentators and analysts in the broadcasting booth, and I've actually enjoyed it. I love it a lot. It's a lot of fun. Like
Same here. Yeah.
I've had some key highlights from it. But have you been able to check out any of the games that have had players mic'd up the way that they've been doing it this year?
I love this feature. I'm not gonna lie. This is the insight that we've been wanting for so long, and I think it was A Rod during his interview. He was saying the same thing. Like, baseball is a very fun sport. Like, I don't know why it took so long for us to finally get the insight of these players. Like, most of these guys are characters. From rally caps to just silly traditions and people um with just the regular character day to day. It's just like baseball needs this. I don't know what else to say. Like, baseball absolutely needs this. Um,
Right.
Another quote from A Rod is that this is the entertainment. Like, we're more concerned about the entertainment more than kind of like the sports nowadays. Like, we need to be entertained. Um, and for baseball to be considered such a slow sport to most people who aren't fans or just casual fans of baseball, baseball needs that shot in the arm. Like, they can use any kind of leg up that they can get over any other sport. Um, and I definitely think somehow they need to implement this as far as problems going forward if they do implement this in the regular season. Obviously, I don't think you can have any infielders mic'd up because I don't want my shortstop catching a line drive off off a bat or anything like that to the head. But outfielders, maybe like first base, third base coach.
Yeah, and like you said, the entertainment piece is the important part because there feels like a lot of downtime in baseball games when you watch them on TV,
Hmm.
where it's kind of like nothing going on. So to kind of have that to fill in that space would be actually really dope to broadcast. But to your point, and this was the thing I was going to bring up, like I don't want my favorite players being distracted trying to hold a conversation with somebody in a broadcast booth
Right.
and miss a fly ball or you know what I mean, like taking a pitch they could have actually hit because they were actually listening to what's going on in the booth or having a conversation with people in the booth. But again, like you said, that shot in the arm I think is needed from an entertainment standpoint because watching a game on TV can be a little dry, let's say.
Yeah.
So anything that they can add to the game to spice it up a little bit would be super dope. I actually caught some highlights of the it was the Mets, and they were like ragging on the dude because he was too skinny. He hit a ball, and they thought it was going out, but it
I
actually hit
remember
the
that.
wall, and they was ragging on the dude. He's like, man, if you had 10 more pounds on you, that might have went out. But like stuff
Yeah.
like that is like fun. So I mean, it was pretty cool to see, and I think they actually had in that particular game. I think they had like 3 players mic'd up, and they were
Hmm.
all just like ragging on each other like the whole game, and that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And you brought it up before, Freddie Freeman, him and Chipper Jones were kind of going back and forth, from the field to the booth. And I think it's a dope idea. I hope they find a way to implement it in the regular season without it being a distraction or taken away from the quality of play in the game.
Hmm.
Because I think it actually puts the fan on the field during the game, which
Right.
is a pretty cool thing. So, like you said, I hope they find a way to implement it in the regular season without it being a distraction and it's not just kind of like a one-off spring training kind of thing.
And between them and the broadcast companies, the ESPNs or whoever else may be covering the games, they should be able to figure it out. They should be able to figure out when to ask questions. What part of the game. I mean, most of these guys are former baseball players, so they obviously know when to chime in, when to ask a question to whichever player, things like that. Even if it's in between innings, I mean that's dope. So they'll figure it out. They'll figure it
Yeah,
out. But they definitely struck gold with this though.
yeah, it'll be interesting. So let me ask you this question: like one player that you've seen throughout your time watching baseball, if you can have one player mic'd up during a game, who would that be?
I gotta go with Griffey. I gotta go with Ken Griffey Jr. Just because I think he was a character. I would love to hear if he was mic'd up the whole time and not necessarily, saying that he's, answering questions, but they just leave his mic on and then maybe replay it after he makes like an amazing catch. Like I would just love to just hear him like running like full pace and hearing this trot, as he runs down and catches like a fly ball or, rob somebody of a home run or stuff like that. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That I would like that. Or after he smacks one, over the fence, and hearing like the first base coach and the third base coach, like, saying that a boy or whatever. Like to me, that would be probably giving me like goosebumps. Seriously.
Yeah, Griffey. I would love to hear because I'm all for the controversy and the cursing on. I would love to hear Lou Piniella mic'd up for a game.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I think he would be going like off and in on like everybody.
Yeah. To hear him when he threw like that third base.
Right.
When he picked up the third base and like throw, like, yeah, I want to hear all that. Hearing him cuss out the umps, hearing when he comes up and like throws dirt on the home plate. I want to hear all that.
Yeah, I would want all the Lou Piniella smoke on mic.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know if they could do it live because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of language in there when he used to do it.
Oh yeah.
But but I would love to hear Lou, and also Barry Bonds is my all-time favorite player. So
I was gonna say him originally, then Griffey popped in my head. But I would love to hear the smoke with Barry Bonds too. Like, especially when he keep like the last couple of years when he kept getting walked. Like, he had to be popping fly with some of the pitchers. Like, I ain't gonna say it because I don't know what kind of audience we have just yet. But he had some choice words like, "Man, you gonna walk me again?" Like,
you gonna walk me with bases loaded? Like, really?
Right. You that scared? All right, I'm gonna take my base, but we'll get you next time. Like, don't leave it, hanging. Don't leave it hanging curveballs out of here.
Right. It's like, you throw me that one pitch, I'm gonna hit it. You know that, right? Like,
right.
All that. I don't know if we really like. Throughout the history of baseball, have we really experienced a lot of the trash talk in baseball? Like, that doesn't really seem like it's a thing.
Not entirely. I'm trying to think who are the trash talkers. Let me see. I think Albert Bell was probably one.
Yeah. Definitely.
Who else? I can't think on the spot, but
Big Papi probably definitely.
Oh, and Pedro. Pedro was popping smoke.
Yeah, Pedro was nuts on the low.
Yeah,
He was telling dudes, "Yo, I'm aiming for your head."
Right. Right. Yeah, so Pedro Martinez. I don't know, man. Maybe who else? Yeah, I mean, it's coming to us slow, but yeah, I'm sure there's a couple people out there who are like the villains, and I would love to hear them mic'd up.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out to MLB or whoever came up with this feature for spring training because it's a home run, no pun intended. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, like I said, I hope they find a way to implement it, for the regular season, even if they only do it for the major broadcasts, like the Sunday Night Baseball or when they start doing Monday Night Baseball, stuff like that. It would be a dope feature to have. I would love to hear an Astro game mic'd up just to see what's going on in those conversations. But hopefully MLB finds a way to keep that going, so the fans can get that experience of actually being on the field.
Man, when you said that, I'm sorry. All I could think of is like Altuve being mic'd up and him being at the plate, and all you hear is "spoo," like right in the ribs. Like that's all I can think of is him getting beamed. Like, oh,
like, pop. All you hear is a whole bunch of pops.
Right. Like that was not the bat.
Right. That was like a wrist or an ankle or something.
Yeah, ribs, something.
But yeah, that's dope. So shout out to MLB for that feature, and we'll look forward to it going forward. And with that, this week's Negro League Legend of the Game. Marcinia Lyle Stone, better known as Tony Stone, born on July 17, 1921 in Bluefield, West Virginia, was the first of 3 women to play professional baseball in the Negro Leagues. Stone started playing baseball at the age of 10 for the St. Claver Catholic Church boys team. By the age of 15, Stone began playing in a semi-professional men's league for the St. Paul Giants. In 1949, Stone began her professional baseball career with the San Francisco Sea Lions, and in her first game, she batted in 2 runs at her first at-bat. Stone left the Sea Lions after 1 season due to not being paid by the team as promised. Later that year, Stone was split time between the New Orleans Black Pelicans and the Orleans Creoles, whom she would stay until 1952. The next season, Stone signed with the Indianapolis Clowns, replacing a young second baseman by the name of Hank Aaron, who had left the team to pursue offers that he had received from the New York Giants and the Boston Braves. Through 50 games with the Clowns, Stone maintained a .243 batting average and even got a hit off of one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball, Satchel Paige. Throughout Stone's career, she often discussed not being respected as a ball player by most of her teammates and opponents, and spoke up about being shunned by them for being a woman. She would not be allowed in most locker rooms with the rest of her teammates and would have to change in the umpire's locker room. She also routinely was asked to play in a skirt for sex appeal, which she refused to do. Stone would retire in 1954 as a member of the Kansas City Monarchs to become a nurse. She would pass away in 1996 in Alameda, California at the age of 75. But prior to passing, Stone would see herself in the Baseball Hall of Fame as she was featured in 2 exhibits there, one for her accomplishments as a Negro League player and the other as a woman that contributed to the history of baseball. And that's a wrap with this week's Negro League Legend of the Game. So feel free to subscribe to podcasts. We're up on SoundCloud. We're up on Apple Podcasts. We're up on Spotify. So feel free to rate, leave feedback. You can always email us questions, requests. Just let us know you're out there listening to BlackGuysBaseball@gmail.com, and we'll love to respond to your emails. Anything else before we sign off?
Yeah, and Christian Yelich, if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, have a good season, brother.
Right. I have no problem making this the exclusive Christian Yelich Watch podcast at all. I have no issues with that whatsoever. So again, this is episode 3. Thanks for checking us out. Again, listen, subscribe, give feedback, all of that good stuff. And we will see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.